Coming up on this bonus episode of Flirtations, we'll meet Pepe and Coco and hear about their story of queer love. They were each other's first boyfriends, and 8 years later, going stronger than ever. I am so excited to introduce you to these two very special people. We'll meet Pepe first and then Coco. Let's go.
I heard you wanted to flirt. I heard you wanted to flirt. I heard you wanted to flirt. Hello, my name is Benjamin. I'm the flirt coach and a gay Libra. Everyone has an inner flirt.
Hey, flirty.
Live, laugh, flirt.
Work the flirt.
Work the flirt. Delulu is the Salulu. Expert on the flirt.
Hey, flirty. There's always another flirt.
Everyone has an inner flirt. Get out of your head and into the flirt.
Welcome to this episode of the Flirtations Flirtcast. I could not be more thrilled to introduce two incredibly special people who have become really big parts of my life. Pepe and Coco, welcome to the Flirtcast. How's it going?
Hey.
Hello, Benjamin. So happy to be here. It's going good. Everything is fine.
Everything is fine.
Everything is fine.
Tell the flirties, where are you?
We're in the middle of the rainforest in Costa Rica, way south near Panama.
Broadcasting all the way from the jungles of Costa Rica. You gotta love technology. All right, I am so happy I want to bring, like, one of my missions here with the Flirtcast and with Flirtations is to feature stories of love and relationships. And you two, as we were chatting just before this, are about to celebrate your 8th anniversary together. So please, take us back 8 years ago, if you will. How did you initially meet one another?
Wow. I love this story. I was fresh out of the closet, ready to meet men. But I didn't really want to go through dating because dating is extremely stressful sometimes. It involved meeting a lot of different people, trying to feel those relationships out, and telling a lot of people no, which is not my favorite thing. So, so I was still very prayerful at the time, still am, but so I was like, universe, I want to meet my soulmate really soon. I've dated girls, and so I kind of know what kind of person I want to meet. I downloaded the first dating app I had ever used. I downloaded Tinder. And so I was kind of doing that in a very spiritual way, trying to manifest a partner. And then I went to a yoga mala, spring solstice yoga mala, and was like, first, I want to manifest romance. I want to meet my soulmate. And I think the night before I had swiped right on Pepe's profile on Tinder. And I was really wanting him to swipe right. That was the specific result that I wanted. And when I came out of the yoga mala, it had happened. And I was like, oh my God.
Match made. You got the ding ding notification.
Yeah. And I had so much faith. I was just like, this is it. Oh my God, it's happening. And so I sent him my phone number and deleted the app. Okay. I was done. I was like, if it's meant to be, he will contact me.
Yep.
And then he did. So we spent a month just texting back and forth and started doing video FaceTime calls at night.
Okay.
Saying goodnight to each other and digesting the day. And it just was very natural from the beginning. And then I found out we were having a conversation, and we realized that very early on that we both had a dream of moving to Costa Rica. So it was just oh my God, you check so many boxes. You're hot, you're single, you're not really doing anything, you're available, you're into me. Okay, I guess this is it.
Yeah.
So the dream of moving to Costa Rica was forged early on. And in that same conversation, we realized that one of my favorite bands ever of all time was coming to his town within a few weeks.
Okay.
So I just immediately bought 2 tickets and obligated him to come with me. Taco and Medicine for the People in Wilmington, Carolina, Earth Day. And we did it, and that was how it started, and we were kind of inseparable ever after.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so you initially made the match on Tinder, and then there was a little bit, so you were talking for a month or so, and it was long distance at first.
Yeah, it was, so a little bit of context. We live in different towns, and
Mm-hmm.
so I actually passing through his town because I was meeting a friend because we were going to another friend's wedding.
Yep.
And I had just recently decided to kind of like flip the switch on Tinder so that I would start seeing guys and kind of making that public with my friends, and
Mm-hmm.
a whole backstory as well, a lot like Coco, of religious shame and stuff like
Yep.
that. And so college was not super fun, trying to figure it all out, feeling like I was gay but trying not to be, and all that fun stuff. Super familiar for many of us. And even though, by the way, I had like all my community, all my friends, most were queers. I had many gay friends, but I had perfect conditions to just come out and blossom, but I wasn't, right? And so I made the switch on Tinder. I started kind of matching with some guys, still had a lot of fear around even just like meeting up with them.
Yeah.
I would get, some cool matches and just be like, I can't do this. Like, nobody knows. I can't just like start meeting with guys in my town. And so, yeah, I matched Coco, and then I had to go off and leave for a wedding, and then I had to go back to my hometown after that. So we embarked long distance talking relationship, and it was amazing. So amazing that when he messaged me about that concert and saying he bought 2 tickets and he wants me to come with him, I did immediately kind of experience that fear of like, oh shit, like, okay, like
I gotta meet this guy now.
Yeah. Do I do what I normally do and just kind of shut down and try to deflect and give in to my fear? Or do I just like man the fuck up and actually do it this time? And so it was the first time I'd ever experienced like full blown confidence. Like, I'm doing this. There's no way I'm not doing this. And let's see what happens. And so, yeah, that concert in my hometown was this big, like spiritual experience of just like exposing myself and being vulnerable and seeing a lot of people in my community and them seeing me with like my new boyfriend, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like, I love this story so much. And this is a part of the story that I actually hadn't heard before. So I'm hearing this for the first time with fresh ears as well. I knew it was a Tinder match, but I didn't know that, like, Coco, you completely, here's my number off the apps, and really called this connection into your life. And it sounds like also you both were kind of at similar stages in your coming out process as well, kind of similar. I don't want to make the assumption of similar dating histories, but kind of just figuring things out when it comes to queer dating. But we're really intentional about connection in that first month. And so I think the Flirties can take a lot from this, just even if you are long distance, right? Even if you're unsure, having some trepidation, like, why not go all in and just put yourself out there to make a connection? Like, that's so much of what the Flirt Mission is all about. And I love that you all were able to do that. And then, making the move, right? Coco was like, here's 2 tickets. I'll see you in Wilmington.
I was so confident. I was just like, I know this is happening.
Yeah. Yeah. And being open to the possibilities too. Like, one question I feel like I get this a lot is like, but Benjamin, like, how do I meet people? Like, if I'm on the apps or I'm not on the apps, or I'm just nervous or I'm anxious or whatever may be going through your head, it's like the people you're going to meet and you're going to date they truly are all around you. It's just about being open to the possibilities of what a connection could look like and exploring it from the beginning, right? Not jumping forward that, oh, this is gonna work or not gonna work or whatever you're thinking, just one day at a time, one conversation at a time.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So post-concert in Wilmington, Earth Day 8 years ago, what happened next? Like, how did your relationship evolve from there?
So there was a little no. Well, after the concert, we were just like crying in tears, like holding each
a spiritual experience.
It was. And like we, especially, like speaking for myself, I had been through such a dark and tormented early adulthood. A lot of people didn't know that because I was like really, out there and putting myself out there in a very like pretend happy way, but I was pretty crazy. And inside I was very tormented. So like I had a lot of really, really deep, dark fears. I was really brainwashed by the Southern Baptist cult that is like the most anti-gay version of Christianity out there.
Yeah.
And so like I felt like it was so euphoric. I felt like officially my darkest days are behind me. Like I never thought I would get through this. I never thought I would feel like this. I never thought I would be free. Oh my God. And so like it began like the most blissful and amazing part of my life. Like I, for the first time, just felt free and like not fearful, not worried. And I was in a really supportive community. Like Durham, North Carolina is not a very gay place to live, but it's a very progressive, very gay friendly place to live. So
that's true.
Around me was being so sweet and so supportive and so excited, and like knew that I was a hot mess and just like taking care of me and like my boyfriend. And we like within 3 weeks we like moved in together and just like basically were already married at that point.
Yeah. The after that concert was just this huge purge, and I remember we were supposed to go to my friend's house after the concert and just hang out. So there were some of my best friends, and we spent like an hour and a half just sitting in my mom's car. By the way, my mom had lent me her car, God bless her, because my 84 Volkswagen Vanagon was in the shop again. Shocker. And we're just sitting in my mom's car, just talking, crying, like sobbing. And I'm getting texts from my friends like, where are you? It's been like an hour. So it was, that kind of
time did not exist.
It didn't.
Right. No, I had no idea.
Yep.
All right. So I want to, a question is coming to mind here. And this would be, because I know a little bit about your backgrounds and histories too, and just sort of the religious upbringing there. And so like you're seeing elements of that coming out in the conversation now, where it's, we've talked about, I mean, because I know these guys personally offline, and just like the shame and the guilt. And so like all of these things, how are you able to just really kind of let that go, not as if you're completely over it, so to speak, but just give yourself all in, or put yourself all into this new connection. When I know a lot of people experience, and like myself too, really holding on to that fear of letting go, right? And just going all in. What was that like for you?
I think it was mostly just like how important the liberation that we were experiencing through love was. Like neither of us really had experienced that blossoming effect of turning into who you really are and just letting go of all these years and like labels and worldviews and stuff that both of us kind of had thrust on us. And so when I had a taste, we like took a bite of the apple, so to speak. It was like, well, we cannot put this down now. Like there's nowhere to go but forward, and we have to like. It doesn't matter what the shame felt like before. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks at this point. Like, there's no going back.
And for me, like, it was spring. It was the season of rebirth. Yes. And like, I had been slowly dying for a long time. And, like my soul, and also I had nothing. Like I had just moved to a new town. I was kind of in this state of desperation, as in like I had like no money. I had no attachments really, because I had just kind of like cut ties with a lot of things and people. And, I didn't have my parents to worry about, because I had to break it off with my parents after coming out. Like that was the end of our relationship. And I was in yoga teacher training, and I was having a hard time like with mental dissonance about, religious beliefs and moving forward and deeper into yoga. So like I had to make that choice of just like, I am throwing this stuff away.
Yeah.
Letting go of everything and letting go of my entire past identity and all of that. So I was very primed for a complete life reset. And so that's what happened. It was literally like a death and rebirth kind of thing.
Yeah.
I was completely changed my identity and, have a completely new life.
That is, I mean, I'm getting chills in this part, because that's truly how powerful love can be, and as attached we can be to the past and our past experiences and our past stories. And like Coco's the one that got me into yoga, y'all. So this is Yeah, Flirt Coach Benjamin doing yoga is a thing because of Coco. And so I really relate to this part of both of your stories too, of just not necessarily being able to see everything in front of you, but trusting that you're going to be okay, trusting that you're building this, you're co-creating this connection with someone else and you're doing it together. You're not doing it alone. You've got the universe right there with you and all of the energy within it to support you as well. Because I know it's like this is something that comes up on just lives and Q&As all the time. It's like, how do I begin the process of letting go? How do I really trust myself to go in to a new connection and really put myself out there to perhaps love someone if I haven't experienced it before, or I'm unsure what it looks like, unsure what it feels like. And so um, I'm curious, how did you like what did some of those conversations look like just around where are we going? Because you all have built such a beautiful dream together, and that's where I want to take the conversation a little bit now is how did you start to build or have those conversations around us, we, right? And really start to build that life together.
Well, at first it was really cute and interesting how little we were talking about stuff like that in the beginning. Like,
Okay.
we weren't asking each other a lot of questions. It was just like, oh my God, we have the rest of our lives to get to know each other. And
we're obsessed with each other.
Yeah.
There was a lot of ground to cover before that.
And just like bliss to be had because we had both been stuck and closeted for so long that like we had such a supportive community that we were just like feet were not on the ground for at least like a year as we just like floated around having lots of sex, like having a beautiful time, doing lots of psychedelics, which also like really helped to speed up the healing and like mind changing process of like programming old beliefs and bonding with each other. But then I think those really critical conversations started coming up about the time we got married, really. Like we married without really knowing what kind of life we were going to live. And that's when we started hitting a lot of struggles, just feeling like doors were closing for us all over the North Carolina area. And we were like, wow, it's super expensive to buy a house or buy land here. We hate the winter. We're not like doing our passion. We're not really doing our life. Like, what about Rica? You know, that was the first thing we talked about. So that's when we took a trip to Costa Rica, and that when the critical thinking about the future really began, because we had this opportunity to buy land and we were like, okay, are we going to do this? And we decided to buy the land, but still didn't really have the plan. We just kind of like forced ourselves into getting serious about life by buying the land and moving. And even just this morning, like we are still having like conversations that are allowing, like making our plans come together and figuring out what we're really going for.
Yeah, it may look like we have it all figured out on Instagram, but we are still very much trying to figure it out.
Oh, Lord, same. Everything is fine.
Like our relationship is about being together and co-creating life. And we've just always been really flexible to different outcomes because for us, like where you live and your job is like a means to living and surviving. It's not like what our jobs are and all that stuff isn't our identity. Like our choice to be together is about being together. And then the other stuff should be supportive of that. So
yeah, that makes sense to me, and I love that. It's the choosing of one another day in and day out. And I really love your answer because it's right. Like where was the rush in the beginning, right? Just being able to be in that period of bliss and enjoy one another and be able to spend time together. Like that's what it's all about. Like it's your relationship and your love story isn't. Like, 'cause I get the question all the time, like, when should I, have X, Y, and Z milestone? And it's like, I can give you all the general guidelines and timelines in the world, but ultimately how you are feeling and how you're co-creating a connection and building a relationship with someone is going to be so individual. And if it is right for you, then it's right for you. It's just like, so I think a lot of people appreciate just hearing that you just enjoyed one another so much, and we're like, okay, after a while, let's like, what's next? Like, let's we want to get out of North Carolina and try something new, and then taking a trip to Costa Rica, and yeah, that's where y'all are at now.
Yeah, I think that that really was the key to our like success and like how we feel kind of like bulletproof as a couple now is just those first, couple years of just being completely like having no other motives or goals really besides getting real and right with each other and like falling deeply in love. It wasn't like, oh, like I have a job opportunity in California, or oh, well, I have this opportunity in New York, and then trying to manage and fit your already complicated and diverse lives and social spheres together. It was very much just like we were both like newborn babies, like yeah, like creating this new life together and focused on that and knowing that okay, well, we'll figure out the rest when it's time.
Yeah,
right. Everybody listening is going to have like the luxury of being able to do that because we were young and I was like, I don't want to take on a very specific career or identity, or I don't want to really solidify anything about my life until I find the person that I want to do it with, because I don't want to have to make someone else fit into my very full, very complicated life.
Right.
Co-create with somebody else who's like fresh and green and open to a new thing. So I kind of put everything else on pause and was like, all right, I'm going to fall in love now and then move forward.
Priorities.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, certainly, yeah, it's just where you all were at in your life, just like age wise and just going through your own journeys, right? It's going to be different from the person that may be in their 40s and they're well into, their career perhaps, and maybe they have kids and they've been in previous relationships. And so, yeah, but it always just comes back to what your priorities are. And it's like, one thing I like to say is just date like you mean it, like date in the way you want to date. And so if you're looking for a relationship, date like it, right? And then let the rest evolve as you choose one another. Like that's ultimately the commitment you're looking for, is that choice that you're making to just be a part of each other's lives and grow together and ultimately build a life together. Like the rest becomes details and minutia and just like the little finer points that we can get really hung up on a lot of times. So I like to sort of expand the conversation and think a little bit more generally, and then like, we'll say this in yoga, Coco. It's like, take what you need and leave the rest. Like, take what you need from this conversation and apply it and use discernment. And I hope it's going to be a helpful and impactful conversation. All right. So I really am curious now how all right. So we're at the process, just sort of in the journey of your relationship, getting ready to make that move to Costa Rica, taking a big leap of faith, making a big change. Were there some fears, and how did you all navigate those together?
Yeah. Well, the initial fear, the first fear was obviously just like throwing most of our life savings into a piece and without a financial or future plan. So we did that. That was the first one. And then the one was, we want to leave North Carolina. We truly do. This is not for like a forever place for us, but at the same time we had he lived a lot of his life there and I lived 5 really rich years of my life there. Mm-hmm. So we had friends, we had attachments to people and
security, resources.
Yeah. A very affluent area, a lot of access to anything you need or want. So choosing to move to a rural area of a developing country where we don't know anybody was full of fear, but we just moved forward.
Yeah. And it was kind of contrasted with the like opposing fear of not taking this amazing opportunity that our lap of this, relatively cheap piece of huge, beautiful farmland with, a stream and water everywhere and can grow all your food. We kind of had, we'd been longing for like, okay, city life isn't really for us. It's not where we want to spend most of our time. We want a yard. We don't want to walk out of our front door and we're in a parking lot. Like all these kind of things that we had been experiencing. Like, so yeah, it was also like, okay, cool. It's a little bit it's a little bit terrifying to leave all of this, but also it's terrifying to think about not just taking this opportunity and
then just getting like stuck somewhere else.
And I mean, let's be honest, the world's in a super volatile place. Like, what if shit hits the fan here? Like, you know, are we going to kick ourselves for not snagging that piece of land? Like, so yeah, it was definitely a high emotion era of our relationship.
It was a sudden coming down from the clouds. It was like we'd been in the clouds for a few. Kind of knew it was like, okay, that was really wonderful, and it's time for us to come down and be grown-ups now. Like we gave ourselves that bliss period,
right?
And like we said, we're so glad that we did. And then suddenly we felt very pulled down to the ground. It was like, it's time. Let's do it.
And now now you both literally live in the clouds. I'll see your pictures.
Yeah, we live in a cloud forest,
which is pretty cool.
But our feet are on the ground very much.
Yes, grounding, very important.
Yeah, like since we moved here, it's been an extreme level of adulting.
Yeah,
that we prepared for. Like
to this day, we're still having like moments of and we just got a little bit more down on the ground. Like we're still kind of
like deep down. Like I'm up to my neck in the dirt now.
In earth.
Yeah. Literally. I've seen the YouTube series. It's a little dirty at times, just a little bit.
A little muddy.
Yep.
But a question came to mind that I'm really curious to hear y'all's answer on, because it's this duality of fear is fear of the unknown, looking forward, looking to move forward, but also this fear of what if I don't take a chance? Like, what if I am just like here in the middle, have that feeling of being stuck, of being resistant, and ultimately it's there's fear in staying stuck as well. But sometimes that fear can also give the illusion of safety. I know that's been very true for me. Like even getting this started, this podcast took quite a long time because I was in that place of fear of just like, oh, right, I don't want to mess it up, or like just going through all the things, but ultimately getting sick enough of my own shit and my own fear to like, let's do it, let's take a chance, and let's put it out there. And one thing you really helped me with, Coco, is like it's something that's coming out of your story here is being able to go into that bliss phase of dating, that honeymoon phase, and really being able to enjoy one another, even though perhaps like your upbringing didn't, just with the religion there and perhaps the culture there as well, didn't necessarily lend itself to really going all into a relationship, and specifically a queer relationship. So how did you give in and allow yourself to experience and feel just that pleasure and bliss of love and connection and relational healing? Like that's something I myself struggle with. So I'm just curious to hear, what do you got for us? Help us.
Well, I think I can talk about it kind of from two different angles. And one is just kind of a philosophical angle that like the pain that there is, the more pleasure there is, or they're like equal. So like I had a really dark and painful upbringing, from especially as I started coming of age.
Yeah.
And I had some very extreme stuff going on inside my head.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely necessary for me to completely ditch all of that programming and completely cut ties, with it so that I could move forward. So I think the drama of that, like the bliss was equal and opposite of what was happening before. Mm-hmm. Whereas like if you had a more easy situation where like, maybe your parents accepted you, like, like a slightly religious upbringing and just like a somewhat uncomfortable relationship with your parents, then the transition would be also a little bit more casual and less dramatic. And you might like, in order to maintain your relationship with your parents, you might compromise on what you want and, continue to kind of be in the middle of pleasure and pain.
Yeah.
But since I had such a dramatically painful experience, I ditched it and threw it all away and then jumped into pleasure.
Yeah.
So that is one thing. But then another part of it is just my natural personality and my natural wiring and design is to be fearlessly experimental. So I just throw myself into things. I try things. I don't do a lot of research. I do,
trial or learning by experimentation.
Yeah, I just throw myself in.
Honestly.
That being our first couple years together were still punctuated by these moments of kind of purging out this trauma that had been stored up, religious trauma, especially for Coco, because he did have a very religious upbringing from his parents. Whereas I was in a religious community, I was in a religious school, and my parents have their spirituality, but they don't have that dogma and they certainly didn't condition that dogma onto me. So it was, we had some challenging trips, so to speak, sometimes literally, surrounding guilt around pleasure.
And panic attacks and mental breakdowns. So there was some deprogramming being done for sure. Mm-hmm. Another thing I wanted to say is that I fear stagnation and not living more than I fear fucking up. So that makes it easy for me to be like, well, I'm going to do this even if I die trying, because my biggest fear is not living.
Right.
I definitely move away from stagnation. And I value excitement more than safety. So that's not everybody's disposition. And, it makes my life sort of intense, but that's how I do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like the phrase that comes to mind, and like I've learned this from you, is that it's the greater resistance, the greater the breakthrough. Like, just because you have maybe had this one experience, or you're carrying maybe something heavy with you, some of that energy with you, it's like, it doesn't mean, like, we're still wired, and we still get to are able to feel and deserve to feel pleasure and love and opportunity and hope and all the good things as well. And yeah, for me, it's been hard to give myself that permission. Like, this is where I think you and I are a little bit different, Coco. It's like I can get stuck in just wanting to just try and put myself out there, but then also getting paralyzed in some ways in the planning of it all and just the overthinking of it all. And so just giving ourselves that permission to have an experience, letting go of the attachment or expectations to what we want that to be, and just being able to be with it and enjoy it. And be the creator of it. I think, that's what's coming to mind for me. All right. So you all are open. You have an open relationship status. And I want to ask a couple questions on that, because I get a lot of questions as well from both the straight and queer dating communities that are in polyamorous or are in open relationships, or perhaps looking to explore some element of open relationships in their dating lives. How did you all start to talk about that? I'm very curious. What has your experience been like?
Well, it's really interesting, actually, because Coco and I started our relationship like in a very traditional way. Mm-hmm. I mean, to start with, we were each other's first boyfriends. We had, as you heard, we were fresh out of the closet and immediately met each other and recognized each other as soulmates. And so that first bliss period was just completely consumed with each other. Like, couldn't even imagine experiencing attraction for anyone else on earth. You know what I mean? It was just like this Disney prince story.
Right. It was like, but without declaring that or saying it. It was just like,
it wasn't really even it didn't even seem like something we needed to talk about. And I actually remember having some early conversations just casually about like polyamory in general, and actually saying
no.
We cannot imagine being open or having different partners, or just like that realm. We just couldn't imagine it. And it's funny because we learned over the years that whenever we said like we will never do ... we end up doing it and doing it,
or at least trying.
Yeah. So every time we say that now these days, I'm like, oh, like give it a couple years, I guess we'll be doing that too.
Yeah.
But so it really started to come to the forefront when we were about to get married. So like 2 years after we met and moved in together, we got married. And that literally, I think it was like a couple weeks before our actual wedding.
And I was like, Pepe, do you ever look at porn? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, oh my God, thank God, because me too. And then I was like, what do you like to look at? Can you share with me? And then we started realizing that we were like into all the same stuff and looking at the same images, and looking at porn became like a connective, bonding, fun thing instead of like a shameful thing that we had to do separately from each other. So we actually were bonding over that.
Okay.
Which just naturally goes further and further because you're watching guys have threesomes and foursomes, and you're like, I want to do that. Do you want to do that? Like, can we try that? And so it led into us just starting to
explore,
like take it out of just the imaginary and fantasy realm to trying like inviting others into threesomes with us, and just being more playful.
Yeah. And I'll say this, like we kind of started having more like expressive social media presences as well, and a bit of I guess you could say exhibitionist. So I was kind of exploring that side, thinking about like, I kind of want to start an OnlyFans, and I'd met people on Twitter that were doing this. One of them, Kane, is like my best friend now, and he had this. It was actually Tumblr. I'm sorry, back in the Tumblr days.
Yeah, Tumblr days.
Yeah, I was kind of watching his presence and seeing what he was doing, and really just admiring. Like, I was like, God, I wish I could be doing that, and ended up striking up a conversation with him, and the rest was history. But yeah, like us being in a more openly expressive spaces, like through social media, kind of opened the door to this a little bit more. And I found this book, Sex at Dawn.
Okay.
And like the primer to us. And I read it right before leaving for our trip to Costa Rica. And he read it on our trip to Costa Rica, which was, after our marriage. But, when we first started out in that world, it was really just like he and I together, exploring together. There wasn't really like individual experiences that we were having with others yet. So in this process of opening up to different degrees that, we're honestly still on.
Yeah, because we still have like more uncomfortable situations where like a new level of opportunity comes up, and it's like bigger than what we've done before. And like, so we've only recently started having like separate experiences, and navigating like, what does that mean? And
and truth be told, we don't have any opportunity, in our current lifestyle. We're in the middle of the rainforest. There's really not much going on around us. Right. So it's not have a lot of stimulation or opportunities around us. So it tends to only kind of, be introduced as possibilities when we're traveling or somewhere else.
But our version now and always has been just very playful and not like in deeply attached, committed relationships with others, because we just don't have the energy, mental space, or ability to do that, so like, and we haven't met anybody else that really fits, that really meshes with us on the depth and on the level that we mesh with each other. So that hasn't been a possibility. It's really just, having fun and being playful.
Right.
That's being open.
Yeah, I think that's going to be really helpful, because it's like, sometimes if we're trying to figure out something new or something that's unfamiliar to us, we want to attach to a label. And so I'm ethically non-monogamous, or I'm open, or I'm, maybe I want to use the term polyamorous. And so just really being able to explore what being open means for the two of you. And it sounds like, just through communication, you've been able to navigate that. It's been a fun exploration of physical pleasure, mostly together, but now maybe a little bit apart. But also, you're not looking to, perhaps open to it, but looking to, sort of officially date outside of your core relationship. And so it's like, I hope that's going to be a helpful conversation as people are looking to explore being in a relationship, but also being open as well, and what that can look like. And it's ultimately what is going to work best for your relationship. And I'm a follow-up question I'm really curious of, because I get this one too. It's like, well, what if I feel jealous, or what if I start to feel insecure? And so how you've been able to, if that's come up at all, and how you've been able to move through that.
Oh my God. Yeah. You're going to feel jealous.
Yeah. Okay.
That's kind of like where the heart of the work lies is not turning that insecurity on yourself, and just trying your hardest to transmute that into a sense of compersion or just being happy for your partner and whoever they're with at the moment. And yeah, just having that trust, like working on the communication and trust with your partner that like they're coming home to you, like they live with you, you have life together, they're choosing this with you. So there's no reason to be insecure about yourself. And yeah, kind of just, it's important. It's been important for me to like just be more playful with it and not be so serious about it. Cause when I start to just spiral down into my feelings or like really focus on the, cause jealousy it's a biological response, right? You can't, it's sort of evolutionary. It's like protective. You can't really avoid it. So it's up on how you actually let it affect your perception and your attitude.
Right.
But you can do for, different people experience jealousy to differing degrees. But I think what makes the biggest difference is just how confident you really feel about yourself.
Yeah.
And techniques and tools for dealing with your mind and your emotions instead of letting them explode on someone else, which nobody's going to be perfect and it's still going to happen sometimes.
Right.
But yeah, just like your confidence in yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this is something I can learn from as well, because I've only dated monogamously. I've never had an open relationship. And oftentimes, like what I hear just as I have conversations is as I'm doing like my flirt search and like I'm looking at videos and reading articles and stuff, it's really about the expansion of love outside of the core relationship, and that it doesn't mean a love or a connection or an experience out there is greater, but it's just about being open to what else, just making other connections in many ways. And so just being able to explore and have fun and be playful. And like you said, all the while they're still, right, your person is still coming home to you. You're still in your relationship and being really secure and confident in that as well. And that it's not going to work for everybody, but it's an option. And it's something I think more and more people are starting to be open to. So I definitely wanted to ask. I was curious to hear what you all had to say about that today. Well, all right. So we're going to continue this conversation on Swell for another question. But for now, please tell the flirties, where can they find you? How can they learn more and how could they support you?
Well, go ahead, Coco.
We have been on so many platforms, but Instagram is kind of still our main one.
Okay.
Our joint account is called Tropical Farm Boys. And that is also what our OnlyFans account is called, Tropical Farm Boys. That's also how we are on TikTok. And if you follow Tropical Farm Boys on any of those platforms, I think you'll be able to find your way to our individual presences as well. Is that a good answer?
Yeah. I mean, you want to have it for the show. I'm at Farmer Pepe with a underscore between Farmer and Pepe.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm Coach Coco, coach.coco.
Yep, coach.coco. Don't forget the dot. And I will link all of that in the show notes as well. So the people, they can find you. Thank you both so much for being here today and sharing this space with me and just sharing your story with the flirties and the flirt community and helping us understand queer dating and poly dating a little bit more. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Benjamin. You're a fantastic podcast host, by the way.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for that. I greatly appreciate it. For more with Pepe and Coco, head on over to Swell. We'll see you there. Psych, don't go to Swell just yet. The mics stayed hot post main interview, and I wanted to share a little bit more from Pepe and Coco on the term boyfriends for life. Let's learn more.
I was going to say, like, a term that I didn't throw out there is boyfriends for life. Like, we kind of just recently renegotiated our relationship again. Like, we actually, like, literally have, like, a contract on paper. And we, renegotiate the agreement from time to time as we change. And most recently we decided, I'm just kind of like blabbing about like what he just said. Like we decided to make our relationship a bit more like casual and less serious and attached, because it's fun to be boyfriends, like it's fun to have like excitement and insecurity in the relationship, or to not know what the other's going to do from time to time, like or to be able to learn new things about your partner. It keeps it exciting.
Yeah,
that's how it feels when you're boyfriends. It's like you don't know everything about the other yet, and you're excited to learn about new parts. And so like if you change your mindset from like you're my husband, very like ownership kind of, and like
that very possessive term. I love the term boyfriends. I think it's fun, it's playful, it's intimate. It's sexy to me. I love the term. Yeah,
me too.
It's like a lot of people now, and I see this. I mean, I just see this at working at Trader Joe's. A lot with straight couples, they refer to one another as partners. No matter what phase of the relationship they're in, dating, married, doesn't matter. We're partners. And I'm like, okay, well, I mean, choose whatever term you want, but I'm like, boyfriend is where it's at for me.
Yeah, it's still sexy, and it's not like, and there's some unpredictability built into that, where it's like, when you're just dating, you're not, you don't spend every single night together, and you don't always explain why.
Yeah.
You might do something different sometimes, or like, you have to ask each other on dates. It's not guaranteed that you're always going to spend time together in this very stagnant, like prearranged kind of way. It's like you have to still keep it fresh and be active in the relationship. And do you want to go on a date? It's fun to be asked on dates.
Oh, and so hot too. Like it's you're not using the term boyfriend to sort of in a way like, go back into this, dating space, so to speak. You're still in this long-term committed relationship. I mean, boyfriends for life. It's just about using the terms that work, that are going to work best, and having fun with it too. Like you get to create your own love story, and that's pick your terms.
That you're also like choosing each other too. Yes. You're in that. No, I'm not like, yes, we're married, but it's not compulsory. Like we're still choosing each other.
Yeah.
And it's not just like, well, here we are again, watching TV. Like none of us decided to do this. We just are,
Yeah. I'm going to have to edit this post conversation into the episode. It's good.
Yeah. It's good. Yeah. That's why I wanted to throw it in there, because that's very present for now. It was a recent decision to not throw away the honor and privilege of being able to call each other husbands, but like more so defaulting to thinking of each other as boyfriends.
Yeah.
Yep. And
that was a recent thing.
And also like, that I could have included that point in my last tip would be prepared to and be willing to renegotiate your agreements with your partner, right? Because that's part of that transformation process. Like you're going to desires and needs are going to change. So just be prepared to let your relationship look different at different times. And it's not always going to stay that way. Like just because you change it in one way, like in 20 years, we may be monogamous again. Like who knows?
Right. Possible.
But you have to be willing to go through those steps to renegotiate with each other and be excited about what's new.
Or we might be girlfriends.
We might be.
Just like Avril Lavigne said.
That's how we try to live our lives, by the words of Avril Lavigne.
Truly. She gets played in the store all the time, and I think of you every time her song comes on.
I love that. Who else would you think of?
No one, only you, Coco. Thank you for joining myself as well as Pepe and Coco on this very special bonus episode of Flirtations. You already know the conversation is going to keep going over on Swell as I ask these guys for some of their best dating tips, best pieces of dating advice. You don't want to miss that. Thank you so much for tuning in to the main show. Make sure to rate, review, and subscribe. Share with a friend. Come on over to Flirtstagram, Flirt Talk. I love hanging out and connecting with you all there as well. And with that, it's a wrap. Happy flirting.